reporter Tony Kobaleski joins us after speaking one-on-one with the head of the DEA's Rocky Mountain Division today.
So, Tony, what are we learning about the criminal records of those 115 people?
At 1:45 in the afternoon, beneath the vast open sky, a massive convoy belonging to the Tren de Aragua gang rumbled through a desolate desert road. Stretching over 300 vehicles, the convoy snaked through the barren landscape, their headlights cutting narrow beams through the dust and rubble. Trucks were loaded with heavily armed gunmen wielding RPG-7 rocket launchers, PKM machine guns, and heavy DSHK weapons mounted on pickup trucks. Other vehicles were transformed into mobile anti-aircraft platforms with ZU-23 autocannons welded onto technicals. What happened next? How did American forces, once confident in their superiority, find themselves facing a nightmare? Watch this video to uncover the shocking details of the battle that turned the tide. For this gang, it wasn't just a movement of gunmen, it was a bold display of confidence. They believed they could cross the desert without detection, linking up routes between Venezuela and smuggling networks deep in Central America. They thought no one would dare challenge them in the vast open desert. But they were wrong. The convoy wasn't moving unnoticed. Intelligence tracked their every move. Spy satellites operated by U.S. reconnaissance agencies shadowed them from staging points tied to Venezuela, where Tren de Aragua first rose to power. High above MQ-9 Reaper drones followed their long desert march, beaming live video back to American command centers in real time. The convoy believed the vast emptiness of the desert offered them safety. But for American forces, it was the ideal kill zone, a wide open expanse with no cover, no escape. Leaders of the gang seated in armored SUVs barked commands over radios secure in their firepower. They had battled local police and militias before and survived clashes with Venezuelan security forces, often using bribes or sheer numbers to overpower their enemies. But this wasn't Venezuela. This was a battlefield watched and primed by the United States military. As the convoy pushed deeper along its route, the stage was set. SEAL teams lay in wait, hidden on ridges overlooking the convoy's path. Snipers armed with MK-13 Mod 7 rifles lay prone, their scopes locked on the lead vehicles, waiting for the moment to strike. Each sniper had already pre-calculated their coordinates. Beside them, spotters kept their eyes on the wind and distance, waiting for the signal. The desert lay still, the silence broken only by the distant hum of engines. With every passing second, the convoy neared the kill zone. At precisely 1:52 in the afternoon, the command came, fire. A flurry of rapid shots echoed across the desert as 300 Winchester Magnum rounds tore into the first vehicles. Tires exploded, engines went up in flames, and the convoy's lead vehicles came to a screeching halt. The desert road transformed into a wall of smoke and fire. In an instant, electronic warfare teams sprang into action, activating jammers that crippled the gang's communications. Panic erupted as gunmen screamed into dead radios, their attempts to coordinate lost in the static. In an instant, the convoy's confidence evaporated. The gunmen realized they weren't the ones launching an attack, they were the ones being hunted. What had seemed like a simple desert crossing had turned into the beginning of their annihilation. And that was just the opening strike. The real blow was still to come, waiting from above. The ambush had only just begun. As the lead vehicles burned on the road, American command centers thousands of miles away watched it all unfold in real time. The convoy never moved freely. For days, intelligence assets had shadowed every staging point, every refueling stop, and every vehicle departing from starting points in Venezuela before entering international smuggling routes. Analysts at the National Reconnaissance Office and Central Command quickly pieced together the full scope of the operation. This wasn't just a small group, but one of Tren de Aragua's largest movements out of Venezuela. Trucks packed with ammunition crates of smuggled rifles, RPG launchers, and drug shipments rolled alongside heavily armed technicals. The convoy stretched for miles, a perfect target glowing in infrared against the cold desert. By 2:10 in the afternoon, confirmation came from multiple drones. MQ-9S circled high above their sensors, marking every heat signature, tagging each vehicle with numbers. An RQ-4 Global Hawk at higher altitude scanned the entire area, ensuring no escape route was missed. Analysts at the National Reconnaissance Office and Central Command quickly pieced together the full scope of the operation. This wasn't just a small group, but one of Tren de Aragua's largest movements out of Venezuela. Trucks packed with ammunition crates of smuggled rifles, RPG launchers, and drug shipments rolled alongside heavily armed technicals. To the gang, their headlights made them appear like predators stalking the night. But to American forces, those lights marked a clear path into the kill zone. SEAL snipers fired once more, tearing through the convoy center and leaving them trapped between blazing wrecks. Gang gunmen poured out of their vehicles, firing wildly with PKM machine guns and 7.62 millimeter rifles, but their shots found only empty ridges, their vision impaired by jammers and the thick darkness. The SEALs had already repositioned, moving silently with night vision and suppressed weapons unseen but lethal. That's when the sky above erupted into action. At 20,000 feet, a pair of F-15E Strike Eagles locked onto the convoy's rear elements. Their targeting systems came alive as coordinates streamed in from the drones. At 2:15 in the afternoon, the first strike hit. GBU-38, JDAM, guided bombs fell silently before detonating into massive fireballs. Fuel trucks exploded in rapid succession, sending shockwaves through the desert valley. Entire groups of vehicles were consumed by flames in mere seconds. Panic erupted across the convoy. Surviving drivers desperately swerved off the road, scattering into the barren sand, but the desert betrayed them. Vast flat and exposed, each vehicle became an easy target. Seconds later, the distinctive roar of a A-10 Warthog aircraft ripped through the air. Flying low and fast, their GAU-8 Avenger cannons unleashed a torrent of 30mm rounds. Trucks, technicals, and armored SUVs were torn apart under the relentless firepower. Those who managed to escape leaped from their vehicles, fleeing into the darkness, but the crosshairs remained locked on them. Inside the convoy, chaos erupted. Commanders screamed into dead radios, desperately trying to rally gunmen for a counterattack. Some scrambled to position ZU-23 autocannons, firing tracer rounds into the sky in a futile attempt to fight back. But the aircraft were too fast, too high, and too precise. Their firepower overwhelmed the convoy's defenses, leaving them powerless against the coordinated assault. On the ground, SEAL teams detonated pre-positioned C4 charges at key choke points. Explosions tore through more vehicles, driving the convoy into a narrow desert road with no way out. Gunmen trapped in the middle could only watch as burning wrecks ahead and behind sealed their fate. The ambush was complete, leaving no chance of escape. What Tren de Aragua had once believed to be a bold crossing through international routes turned into a death march. The desert, vast and unforgiving, had become their graveyard, and the American strike was just entering its second phase. By 2:27 in the afternoon, the convoy had completely collapsed. The desert sky was ablaze with flames, each explosion illuminating the terrain for miles. But the ambush was precision designed for this moment, when panic drove the gang gunmen to fight back, rushing straight into the trap instead of retreating. Tren de Aragua wasn't a small gang. These were men hardened by life on the streets of Venezuela and violent criminal networks, part of one of the most powerful transnational criminal organizations to emerge from Venezuelan prisons. Armed with Russian and Chinese weapons, they were desperate, cornered, and believed they could shoot their way out. The first counterattack came fast. Surviving gunmen dismounted from armored SUVs, launching RPG-29 rockets at the ridges. Warheads detonated against the outcrop, shattering rock, but the SEAL teams had already repositioned to flank them. From hidden positions, their suppressed HK-416 rifles fired in short, controlled bursts, each shot hitting its target with deadly accuracy. One by one, the gunmen fell before they could reload. Still, the firepower from the gang was overwhelming. Heavy DSK machine guns opened fire from the technicals, sending 12.7mm rounds streaking through the air in glowing arcs across the sand. Gang gunners desperately tried to suppress the ridges, hoping to shield the advancing vehicles. That's when the kill zone's second layer was triggered. From the horizon, M777 howitzers thundered, launching synchronized barrages of 155mm shells that rained down on the convoy. Ow. The rounds fell in precise, devastating patterns, obliterating the desert road ahead and blocking the convoy's path. Each explosion sent shockwaves through the ground, flipping vehicles, scattering gunmen, and crushing any hope of escape. To the gang, it seemed as if the very earth had turned against them, but the battle was far from over. Determined to fight back, a column of armored SUVs with heavy turrets mounted on top charged through the flames. Dust clouds swirled in their wake as drivers pushed their vehicles to the limit, desperate to smash through the SEAL positions. It was a gamble fueled by sheer desperation. For a fleeting moment, it seemed like they might break through the ambush. Then the sound of rotors pierced the air. Two AH-64 Apache attack helicopters swooped low over the valley. Their 30mm cannons roared to life, tearing through the armored SUVs like paper. Missiles streaked from their racks, exploding in the heart of the convoy. Survivors were cut down before they could fire another shot. The armored push that Tren de Aragua had staked everything on ended in smoking craters. Yet pockets of resistance continued to fight on. Gunmen crouched behind burning wrecks, blindly shooting at the darkness of the ridges. Some attempted to deploy man-portable air defense missiles, hoping to target the Apaches or A-10s. But their efforts were in vain, as electronic warfare units had jammed their guidance systems, leaving them powerless. The missiles never launched. Every attempt at resistance was met with overwhelming precision. On the ground, SEAL teams closed in their NVG goggles, glowing green as they moved forward. Flashbang grenades erupted inside disabled trucks, disorienting the gunmen before suppressed rounds took them down one by one. Some high-value lieutenants were captured alive, dragged from their hiding spots as chaos engulfed their men. The ambush wasn't just about annihilating the convoy, it was a calculated move to dismantle the gang's leadership. By now, the convoy had become a graveyard of twisted steel and burning fuel. Every vehicle was either trapped in the valley, destroyed, or left abandoned in the wake of the assault. Survivors who hadn't been captured yet ran blindly into the desert flats, scattering in every direction, radios silent, their command structure shattered. Tren de Aragua had entered the kill zone as a formidable force. Now they were nothing more than fugitives scrambling for survival, and the most devastating strike was still waiting to unfold. By 3:05 in the afternoon, the battlefield had transformed from chaos into total destruction. The massive convoy, once 300 vehicles strong, now lay in a field of twisted wreckage fires still smoldering across the desert floor. But American commanders weren't finished. The kill zone had been crafted not only to trap but to eliminate any chance of escape. Above, B-52 bombers entered the airspace, their massive silhouettes blending into the haze, but their payload was unmistakable. A GM-158J ASSM cruise missiles dropped from their wings, streaking toward any remaining desert escape routes. Each explosion sealed off a road, collapsed a bridge, and cratered a trail, ensuring that no surviving vehicle could regroup or flee. The convoy wasn't just defeated, it was erased from the map. Footage from RQ-20 Puma drones confirmed the scale of the devastation. Entire lines of trucks had been reduced to charred skeletons. Armored SUVs, once carrying gang leaders, lay torn apart by precision-guided bombs. Fuel trucks continued to burn their towering fireballs, illuminating the desert. Their smoke columns were visible for miles. Survivors fled in all directions, but none got far. Bayraktar drones flew low, tagging retreating gunmen for airstrikes. F-15 E-Strike Eagles dove once more, dropping precision-guided bombs on groups of men and vehicles. In under 20 minutes, every last pocket of resistance was wiped out. For the SEALs, the fight shifted from ambush to cleanup. With lethal precision, they moved through the smoking wreckage, clearing each vehicle. Suppressed rifles cracked as isolated gunmen attempted to fire back. Others, dazed and burned, raised their hands in surrender, pleading for mercy. Among the captured were high-value lieutenants tied directly to Tren de Aragua's operations in Venezuela. Intelligence teams immediately began collecting data from seized radios and laptops, confirming the convoy was part of a larger plan to move drugs, weapons, and gunmen north. What began as a tactical ambush had become a strategic intelligence victory. The results were staggering. Over 200 vehicles were destroyed, more than 400 gang gunmen were killed or captured. Massive caches of drugs and weapons were seized before they could reach their destination. And most shocking of all, no American casualties. For the SEALs and Air Force crews, it was proof that American coordination, technology, and planning could eliminate even the largest threats with ruthless efficiency. But the message went beyond the battlefield. For Tren de Aragua, it was a devastating blow. The gang, born in Venezuela and evolved into one of the most feared transnational criminal organizations in the hemisphere, had just lost its largest operation. Its gunmen lay dead in the desert vehicles, reduced to ashes, and its leadership was captured. For a gang that thrived on fear, the image of their destruction would spread faster than any propaganda they could muster. In Caracas, whispers spread instantly. If this could happen in the desert, what would stop America from repeating it closer to the gang's strongholds in Venezuela? For Moscow and Havana, quietly tolerating Tren de Aragua's growth as a destabilizing regional force, the message was clear. The United States had drawn a red line, and crossing it meant total annihilation. For Washington, this wasn't just an operation, it was a clear statement to every enemy, whether gang insurgent or foreign sponsor, that there would be no mercy. When SEALs and the Air Force coordinated their strike, survival was not an option. This wasn't just an ambush. It was a display of overwhelming power, a reminder that technology planning and precision would always crush chaos and sheer numbers. For Tren de Aragua, the desert wasn't just a battlefield. It was their graveyard. What do you think of this ambush? Is this the end for Tren de Aragua, or will they find a way to retaliate? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Hit like, share, and subscribe to our channel to explore more thrilling stories with us.